Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. My name is Suzanne Hall-Fritsch. I have been a grateful member of this community for the past 4 years. I am so glad that you were able to join us this morning, both online and in person. Our weekly services are more than just a gathering of our physical bodies. It is the forming of a sacred time that we have been making together for 199 years. As we work to build a more just world, and in that sense of sacredness, along with deep respect, we acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Pagosset people. If you are new and joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourselves and where you are connecting from in the chat box as you are comfortable. If you are new here in person, please fill out a guest card in the foyer and drop it in the basket there in the foyer as you leave today. After our service, we invite those of you visiting in person to stay inside and take a moment to greet those here today. And those of you at home to participate in a breakout group for individual connections and deeper check-ins. We welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are, and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about UUCD on our website and Facebook page. We encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to others who may feel isolated and might benefit from the spiritual connection with our loving community. So now we have some announcements. They're in your program. You can follow along. The Conversations Book Group will meet on Friday, December 17th at Panera across from the Danbury Mall to discuss The Well-Gardened Mind by Sue Stewart Smith. Contact Marianne Kula for the starting time. Our holiday concert on Sunday, December 19th at 3 p.m. will be offered both in person and through Zoom. Watch for the sign up to attend in person in the fellowship hall with Jerry, Reverend Kathleen, and Sierra Marie. All ages are welcome and masks will be required. Holiday brown bag lunch invitation from Reverend Kathleen, Wednesday, December 22nd from noon to 1:30 in the fellowship hall. You are encouraged to bring your own lunch, and Reverend Kathleen will provide holiday goodies. Space is limited and masks will be required. Please email Reverend Kathleen at minister@uudanbury.org to reserve your spot. Okay. Again, welcome to the UU Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in a spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service. So now, if you could all join us in our hymn of welcome, gathered here on page 389 of your hymnal.
Thank you, Suzanne. We are going to do this first, the hymn of welcome. And I'm going to ask you to not open your hymnals because this is a very short round. The words are right up here on the screen for you, but let's rise in body or spirit. Jerry is going to lead us through one time with accompaniment all together. And then we did such a fabulous job on a round a few weeks ago. We're going to do it again. So after one time through all together, we'll go into 3 groups. Jerry will lead a group, I will lead a group, and Diane Purvis will lead a group, and then we'll do it 3 times through. But let's do it together, all together once with the accompaniment. Gathered here.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered
I'd like to invite the chair of our membership team to join me in reading this morning's opening words. So Bruni Edwards will join me. This is adapted from Gordon McKeeman. We summon ourselves from the demands and the delights of the daily round,
from the dirty dishes and unraked leaves,
from all incompleteness and not yet startedness.
We summon ourselves to attend our vision
of peace and justice,
of delight and devotion,
of who we are and what we can be. We summon the power of tradition and the exhilaration of newness,
the wisdom of the ages and the knowing of the very young. We summon beauty, eloquence, poetry, music to be the bearers of our dreams.
We would open our eyes,
our ears,
our minds,
our hearts
to the amplest dimensions of life.
We rejoice
in promises and possibilities on this,
our membership Sunday.
Thank you, Bruni. And I'd like to invite Joan Campbell, also on our membership team, to light our chalice this morning as our service coordinator, Rick Cousins, leads us in our words of affirmation.
Please join me now in reading the words that are on the screen. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life.
It is good to be together, and especially this morning, the first morning that we officially welcome children back into the service with the adults. Yay, yay for vaccinations. It's good to be all together, to summon the wisdom of ages and the knowing of the young. I invite you to, those of you who are children, and I know there are some high school youth, it looks like, who may have already made it downstairs, but the children, when we are done with the story this morning or the Time for All Ages video, to move downstairs during the time that we sing This Little Light of Mine. And now let's say our children's affirmation together. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. And now we have a video.
The fall sports season has wrapped up over the last few weeks. Here are photos of some of our congregation's young athletes from this season. If you can't see the screen from where you are, you might move to a side of the room where you can see. Just please be careful not to block the view of others. This is a celebration of sports. And you might ask, why would that be something we would celebrate at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury? If you're one of the athletes in this slideshow, maybe you thought that your sports were a totally separate thing from our community here. So the first thing I want you to know is that this community is always cheering you on. That's true even if you are not an athlete or your picture is not in this slideshow. One of the principles of our community is to accept one another and encourage one another to grow and learn. We care about the things you love to do because you are a unique and beautiful human being. And sports is one of the ways that humans grow and learn. I asked some of you what you have learned from playing sports, and here are the things people said. I've learned to play every game like it is my last. I think that's a good way to live life too, to treat every moment the way I would if it was my last moment. I've learned to trust others. You have to trust your teammates to do their jobs so you can do your job. And if you all put in effort together, it comes together into one really good thing. I've learned discipline, how to put in the work and do what needs to be done. I've learned to help others. I help people who aren't as naturally good at the sport get better so they can feel part of the team and feel happy. I've learned to respect others, to respect my teammates and my coaches. I've learned it is better to share joy and defeat with others. It's fun to be a part of a community. I've learned that I shouldn't try to do everything alone. If I only ever tried to get breakaways and score goals on my own, sometimes I will make it. But if I miss, no one might be there to get the rebound shot. I rely on my teammates because things are better when we work together. Thanks to those of you who shared about the things you've learned and come to believe because of your experiences with your sports. When I was a kid, my chosen sport was dance. I looked up to a famous modern dancer named Martha Graham. Martha Graham once said this: "There is a vitality, a life force, an energy, quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all of time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and it will be lost. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is, nor how valuable, nor how it compares with other expressions. It is your business to keep it yours clearly and directly, to keep the channel open." Here we're being pretty still together for the service, but we still have bodies and energy. If you want, softly wiggle your fingers or toes or nose without disturbing others around you. Just wiggle some part of your body right now to remind you that this life force, this energy, this body is yours and it is good. Our bodies are how we experience the world around us. There is no right way to have a body. Your unique way to have a body, the things you do that say yes to life, those are good things. And so we celebrate sports.
That would be Zach.
How's that go?
Nice.
Little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
What a great celebration. Membership Sunday, we have our children in the service with us for the first time in a very long time. We can celebrate the things that they enjoy, the things that are meaningful to them. That's how we show them that we care for them. How wonderful to have a DRE like Sierra Marie Gerfeo, who recognizes the beauty of all of our children and can bring this to us and show to us. What a glorious day. Today, we honor milestone membership anniversaries. And so I would like to invite Bob Bollinger, also a member of our membership team, as well as Bruni Edwards, to come to this standing mic. Here in this congregation, human beings have gathered for nearly 2 centuries, seeking a higher purpose and deeper life than they could find all alone. We never really know what combination of fate and friendship and good luck it is that brings certain people together in this world for any purpose. But we believe that membership calls each of us here to celebrate the fate that has drawn us together and to regard each one here a spiritual friend, a potential teacher, even of occasional hard lessons. So today we celebrate membership anniversaries for 5, 10, 15, 30, I forgot 20, and 35 years. Bruni and Bob, would you please read the names of those that we celebrate with today? And if you are online, if you'd like to stand where you are, know that we are recognizing you. And if you are here, when your name is read, if you would stand, and if you are able, remain standing.
The following 4 people have been members for 5 years: Joanna Schrader, Chris McCartney, Michael Zakaya, and Joan Camel.
Our 10-year anniversaries are Marion and Tony DeFabio, Carla Camiso and Johanny Kelvin, Cheryl Edelin, Joan Stapleton, and Carl Dwyer.
And 15-year anniversary are for Karen and Joe Gelati. Karen is here. And Jeremy Stein and Yvonne Ruddy Stein.
20 years, Carl Tischler and Suzanne Perry.
30 years, Darlene Anderson Alexander and Dean Alexander. Doug and Mary Lou Parkhurst.
35 years, Jane Leff. And we know you're having fun, Jane.
So as you remain standing, I share with you. I tell you, we are grateful for your presence. We are grateful for all of the ways that you have participated in this congregation. Through your contributions of time and talent and treasure, you have helped this congregation thrive. You've nurtured children. You've offered gentle hands and hearts in times of need. And you've stood on the side of love and justice in our community. This congregation is a better place because you have been here. And we thank you for your membership. You may be seated. As we celebrate these wonderful milestones, we also come now to a time when we bring other milestones, where we bring the joys and we bring the sorrows to the table, to our community table. Rick will come forward, and I ask you to take a moment to really reflect and search your heart. Is there something that you feel is to be shared with the community on this day? You can raise your hand if you're here, And if you are online, I encourage you to use the chat box. Type in your milestone, and we will leave that chat box just for the milestones at this time. And we will alternate between those here. Rick will call you up and invite you to the standing mic. I ask that you keep your mask on when you are at the standing mic. And then we'll also read those that come through the Zoom room. This is a sacred part of our time together on Sundays. And so I invite you now to bring to our table your milestones. Let's take a moment to just breathe. There is so much in each of our lives. There is so much in the world that impacts us. So we will go into a moment of silent reflection to hold what has been shared here. But there is yet another important milestone to mark today. We would actually mark it on the 14th, but we are together today. It was 9 years ago that I received a telephone call from my daughter, who at the time was in her 20s, saying, "My school, Mom, my school. Someone shot at my school." And of course, I'm referring to Sandy Hook. It's impacted everyone here. It has impacted everyone all over the nation. And while we'd like to forget, we cannot forget, and we should not forget. We want to honor the lives that were lost that day. We want to honor all of the lives impacted by the tragedy. And we also want to celebrate that in this congregation, in the membership of this congregation, we have someone working against gun violence and doing all that he can to make sure that these things do not happen, to make sure there is safety. And I've invited Jeremy Stein. We've just celebrated the membership anniversary of him and Yvonne, but I've invited him to come and just say a few words. And then we will have silence together. I will light the candle named Hope. And then I will strike the singing bowl as we are in silence. I will strike it 26 times. Jeremy, would you come?
Thank you, Reverend Kathleen. It's really an honor to be here this morning with all of you, and it's been a while. It's good to see everyone. This is always tough. 9 years ago, the unimaginable happened in the most unlikely of places. 28 people were killed, including 20 elementary school children and 6 educators. Many of us here in this congregation were deeply, deeply affected by the shooting. Some of us went to that school, some of us worked there, and some of us paid the ultimate price and lost children, friends, and loved ones to a gunman carrying an assault weapon into a school filled with toddlers, babies, our babies. It's still really hard to believe that that actually happened in this country. Even 9 years later, it's hard to believe that it actually happened. But since Sandy Hook, over 300,000 people have been killed in the United States by guns. 100 people per day, over 200 in Connecticut so far this year, closer to 300 estimated by the year's end, and the pandemic made it worse. And this year, gun shootings in cities have become just as concerning as the pandemic itself. In places like New Haven, the number of gun homicides have doubled since the pandemic. Black and brown communities have been hit the hardest. And we weep for those we've lost 9 years ago. But today cannot just be about Sandy Hook. We must also tell the story of the over 200 people who have died from gun violence this year in Connecticut. We must put a stop to this now. Vigils are not enough. We must commit to action. The cries of never again and not one more have gone unanswered by the failure to pass even one single federal law. Gun sales have doubled in some places. However, the absence of federal gun law reform, despite the passion and leadership of our legislators, like those in Connecticut's congressional delegation, does not render us powerless. We must remember that each of us have the power to create change, especially at the state level, especially here in Connecticut. With the hard work of so many of you that have taken the pain of Sandy Hook and turned it into action, as a result of the tragedy of turning that tragedy into advocacy, we've achieved remarkable things here in Connecticut by passing some of the strongest gun laws and giving us one of the lowest gun death rates in the nation. We must not grieve for the victims of gun violence. We must honor their lives with action. And as is tradition in this congregation, we will observe a moment of silence, but we must not stay silent. Each and every one of you must work to create the world we want our children to live in. Let us all be the change.
God. Come to me, come to me.
This morning's reading comes from the Book of Qualities by Ruth J. Gendler. Truth. Truth is tall, rather unconventional looking. He has golden hair, short beard, doesn't like statistics, and is not particularly concerned about fact, but loves a good story. Though he never hides what he feels, by nature, Truth is gentle and not at all sarcastic. However, he does have a fierce temper. Truth has been employed as a thief, stealing illusions. He can climb over any security fence we have constructed to keep out disturbing influences. Although he can unlock any window or door, he's no longer interested in breaking in or getting away, no longer thrilled by the chase or defying authorities. He's given up on the challenge of trying to find new ways to escape. When Truth's fingers touch my shoulder, I hear bone touching bone. Truth has set down his bundle of needs, and his shoulders are soft and spacious, outlined by light. Truth learned to act in the theater of qualities, and his studies in mime continue. He lingers. Truth lingers in those long pauses between the questions and the answers. Certainty and uncertainty are both welcome at his table. Truth is willing to wait for a long time with little attention or visible encouragement. But Truth is not willing to live without love. This ends the morning reading.
It is now time for our congregational offering. For those of us here with you for the first time, your presence here is your gift to us. Online members, please express your generosity by clicking the link posted in the chat to make a donation or pledge. While not everyone is here in our sacred space, our operating room spaces remain the same. Please consider mailing a check or using the simple gift barcode or link. Mail the check, if you would, to 24 Clapboard Ridge Road here in Danbury. For those of us here in the fellowship hall, there will be someone at the door that will be able to accept offerings as we leave our service today. Please join me now in our congregational response. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
There was a time when I didn't need to question. I didn't need to search. I didn't need to struggle to find truth, because the divine was an omnipresent, omniscient, anthropomorphic granddaddy in the sky. He knew how many hairs were on my head and what I was going to be when I grew up, and would punish me should I break any of his rules. There was this one-size-fits-all cloak of truth that was placed on my shoulders. I was told it was armor for battle with the world. It came with one-size-fits-all answers, questions not recommended. But at some point, I realized that cloak was coming completely apart at the seams. It was the wrong color. It was the wrong size. The truth that had been presented to me, given to me, was not chosen by me. It was no longer relevant to my life. So with divorce and heartache, death, birth, loss, failure, triumph, blessings beyond what words can even express, looking within and listening deeply, I've come to believe that I am good without a God. I believe that humanity has the capacity for tremendous good, compassion, and beauty, and that heaven and hell are right here, right now, period. I believe I bear responsibility in caring for the planet and all of its inhabitants. I believe that life is worth living, and that when people are in right relationship with each other and with the earth and with themselves, there is a powerful force created. A force greater than just myself, greater than any one individual. Some might call it God. I call it love. Yes, this I believe. This is my truth. Mine. It's my reality, authenticity, axiom, certainty, genuineness, nitty-gritty, principle, rectitude, veracity, verisimilitude. This is my gospel. My gospel. But the greatest news of all is that in this beloved community, my truth is my own. And while I may be the minister of this congregation, your truth doesn't have to be the same as mine. I hope it's not. I hope you find your own truth, your own gospel. Because our good news, if you will, is that this is a liberal faith tradition, which means we are free to make meaning in our own ways, each of us. Because Unitarian Universalism is a tradition that affirms and promotes a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And truth is not always easily discerned. Sometimes when I'm speaking with groups of people in an interfaith circles or UU circles, I like to advise people of all faiths to remember the four great religious truths. You may know some of them. We know one is that Muslims do not recognize Jews as God's chosen people. We know that Jews do not recognize Christ as the Messiah. We know that Protestants do not recognize the Pope as the leader of the Christian world. And I know that Baptists do not recognize each other at Hooters or the liquor store. This is true. I know. Not that I've been to either one of those, but I know because I grew up in Oklahoma. So Margaret Henderson may know as well. Because in fact, this is true. There was a liquor store there, which in the olden days had a Baptist window. It was a pass-through from the store into the back alley. And that's where the Baptists would come to get their liquor and not be seen by their neighbors. When I was a young girl, my grandma's doctor told her that she needed to drink a small glass of red wine every night. But being the good Southern Baptist that she was, she made my grandpa drive to a liquor store 2 counties away to buy the wine, and then she would proceed to pour it into an empty prune juice bottle so that whoever came to visit wouldn't know about the wine, and more importantly, she said, so that none of the grandchildren would sneak a sip. Truths are not easily discerned sometimes. Many religious traditions constrain their members to make meaning only through dogmatic beliefs. Perhaps some of you have had that experience. Only through dogmatic beliefs and prescribed behavior. But the beauty of our free faith is that we covenant, we promise to honor each other's search. I promise to honor your search for truth and meaning. And we encourage each other toward personal and spiritual growth in responsible ways. I want you to hear a few words from our members celebrating 30 years of membership. So I've invited Doug and Mary Lou to come and speak briefly to you this morning.
Thank you, Kathleen. And by the way, welcome home. Kathleen and I go back a distance, even before she decided ministry was her choice. And she's a gift from God in my mind. Okay, I was brought up a Roman Catholic and was unchurched for quite a while. When Douglas and I got married, we decided, yeah, we should find a church. And I can't believe that it was 1990 on Christmas Eve that we attended the Unitarian Universalist Society in northern Fairfield County, well known as the Barn. Barbara Peskin was the settled minister. She was the first UU minister I ever knew, and she was officiating. I don't remember who the first one was, but, oh, that's right. I should not forget it was Douglas's uncle, John Queen Parkhurst, Dr. Reverend of the Universalist Church. That was my first, and he was a sweetheart. At the completion of that service, I knew I had found my home. I just felt it, and I told Douglas. In June of 1991, it was the last service of the season, and we signed the membership book. And Donna Lawrence witnessed our signature. The same day following that ceremony, Donna Lawrence asked both Douglas and I to join the Sunday Service Committee. And we very happily jumped into it. Then I realized that attending church on Sunday is not and has never been enough for me once I found UUism. I wanted to live my UU principles every day, and the only way I could do that was get involved in this congregation. I joined a number of committees. The History Book Committee, which was just thrilling. The Cookbook Committee, which a number of you have also participated in. Then it was the 175th anniversary quilt. My square is up there. It's a double heart, mother and daughter love. Unfortunately, there were 2 seashells on there and they are gone. I worked on the auction when it was only an hour or 2 hours after a Sunday service. We would rush to set it all up. And I started with Lynn Tabasak. Then we were thrilled when we made $1,000. Now look what you have. Fabulous. I worked on that for quite a number of years. And then my dear friend Marsha Brooker. She wanted to start a women's retreat 20 years ago. And she asked me to help. Again, I jumped into it. The women's retreat was the beginning of a lifelong friendship with Marsha, and I consider her my kindred spirit and also a sister of choice. Then Marsha and I worked on the ordination dinner for our incoming settled minister, Reverend Daniel O'Connell. And guess what happened? With everybody celebrating this, one minister was delayed from Rochester. He came late. Then we had a power outage. And here we are with so many people wanting to serve dinner. But we hung in, somebody found a generator, and we proceeded. I joined the building committee when we decided we wanted to move back to Danbury, where Danbury was our home. That was really a good decision. Both Douglas and I were on that. And what you're sitting here and seeing here is the results of that hardworking team. The entire, from the picking the location to building this building. I also joined the knitting ministry, which was started by a dear friend, late Charlotte Warren. I didn't know how to knit, but I could crochet and I could embroider. So Charlotte, Marsha, and Goebel, for some reason, Ursula Goebel, they taught me how to knit. I do more of that than anything else. I could go on and on and on. But from the bottom of my heart, I have enjoyed every minute and have some very dear friends here. Long and dear friends. I can't mention all of your names, but you all know who you are. And believe me, you are all a big part of my life. When we moved to Halifax, Vermont, 16 years ago, our commitment to our religious life continued at the First Universalist Church of West Chesterfield, New Hampshire, and the Halifax Union Society at Halifax, Vermont, where we are both active on the board, and we still continue our membership at our beloved church, UUCD. I just want to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to reminisce. Thank you. And happy anniversary.
I'm Doug Parkhurst. I came with Mary Lou. She basically said everything, so I don't have to say anymore. Thank you, Donna, for letting us in, by the way. You probably don't remember, but if you look at the book, you'll see your signature there. A few things that I was involved in, many of the things that Mary Lou was involved in, such as the 175th anniversary. The quilt is a tangible example of that project. These paintings are part of, I believe, a series of 6 that we own. And they came to us through the generosity of Herrick Jackson, who was a friend of the society. This is the Unitarian Universalist Society of Northern Fairfield County. Our name before was the UU Congregation of Danbury. It came through his generosity. And there are, I believe, 4 other pictures. And the idea was that they would be, they wouldn't all be put up at the same time, and they would be circulated so that the sun didn't harm them. But I'm glad to see them here, these 2 at least, up front here. Couple of things that I did that Mary Lou didn't do. I was on the board of trustees for 5 years back in West Reading. While I was on the board, I was the liaison for several years to the RE committee. And as such, not because I was the liaison, but because I was interested, our DRE at the time was Karen Judd. And she asked me if I would help her co-lead a couple of adult RE programs, which I did and enjoyed very much. I also led an adult RE program in UU history, which I also enjoy. You'll find out more about that later, not today, but coming up. Kathleen, do you recall back when we were getting ready to do the fundraising for this property here and to build this building? You and Mitch arranged a dinner over at a restaurant in Stony Hill. The building is still there. I don't remember the name of the restaurant then, but it's different now. What was it? La Fortuna. Okay. Well, the group met over there, and it was a lovely evening. We had a big group of members and friends, and Kathleen and Mitch, her husband then, were responsible for getting that dinner together. And I think putting everyone in the right frame of mind to open their checkbooks and their wallets and sign on the dotted line, so to speak. I know we're taking up a lot of time here, and I don't want to take away from Carl and Suzanne's time, but I have a story I'd like to share with you. And a few of you might have heard this before. I told Bob Bollinger that he may have heard this one before. Maybe Marcia has heard it before, or Donna, or Keith and Gail, Jackie, and a few others here. I signed the book 30 years ago, but my actual connection to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury goes back to 40 years before that. I was born in January of 1952, so you can calculate that I'll be 70 years old next month. And in April, and I know this is true because I've seen it in the book, I was christened at the building on Main Street, 347 Main Street, where the church was located at the time, the First Universalist Church of Danbury. My family was very active in the church in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. And this would be just kind of prior to the changeover and move to West Reading. So I grew up in the church. I went to Sunday school. I was in the youth group for a while. In those days, it was called LRY, Liberal Religious Youth. Then I went away to college and developed other interests and didn't come back for a while. But we did ultimately, Mary Lou and I did. But anyhow, because I was present in the church most Sundays growing up, I got to know and recognize people, adults, who were friends of my folks, my grandmother, and one in particular that I remember very clearly, and you may have heard this name, and old-time Danburyans or people from this area perhaps remember her, Miss Adelaide Graybert. She was a piano teacher and voice teacher in town, very well known at the time. She was also our organist and choir director. And when I remember her, she was in her 80s. She retired from the position of organist and choir director in 1961. So I would have been almost 10 years old at the time, 9 years old. But I remember her very well. I remember her playing the organ. I remember her practicing in the morning. We would get there early. She would be playing up front. This was down on Main Street, 347 Main. Well, she was the organist and choir director here when I say here, I mean in this church, for 64 years, nonstop, 64 consecutive years. And she had come to the church when she was a young woman, maybe 20 years old. A few years prior to becoming the organist and choir director, she was the assistant organist when the church building was located on Liberty Street, downtown in Danbury, which is practically right in the center of town. It's not there anymore. The street has been changed somewhat, but I can tell you where the spot was if anybody wants to know. She later moved to 347 Main when that building was constructed. She retired, as I said, in 1961, and she passed away about a year later. She was about 91 years old. Now, I wasn't going to tell this story until last week. I was talking with Reverend Barbara Peskin, who Mary Lou mentioned. I think Kathleen mentioned as well, who was a minister here in West Reading during the West Reading years. And I had about some UU history that I knew she would know about. And I talked to her last week. And during the course of the conversation, she mentioned continuity. Continuity in relationship to church membership. And since this is Membership Sunday, I thought, well, why not bring it up? Another way to put continuity might be institutional memory. And she talked about her church growing up in Akron, Ohio, her UU church, and churches that she had, or societies, fellowships, congregations, however you want to term it, that she had served as a minister. And anyhow, it put the seed in my mind. I said, I have to mention this. So to get back to Miss Graybert. Miss Graybert started with our church, now the UUCD, about roughly 75 years after it was organized. Organized in 1822. In fact, we just had our 199th birthday 3 days ago. So we are officially in the 200th year of this church. She started about 1890, 1891, and she stayed with the church until she died in 1961, late 1961. I remember her. So I'm a living link to Miss Graybert, who started with us in 1890 or 1891. And in 2021, I can say to you that I remember her. I can see her walking and talking, playing the organ, leading the choir. And I hope that someday, some of the young folks that were here, or young adults who may be in the audience, I see a lot of young adults in the audience, will remember maybe 50 years from now when we have another big anniversary, maybe 250 years, they'll look back and they can say, oh yeah, I remember when we moved to Clabbered Ridge Road. Or I remember when Reverend Kathleen came to serve us. Or I remember some old guy who knew an old lady who played the organ going back to, way back when. I hope that at that time, 25, 50, 75 years from now, there still is a living link to folks who were here. And you said it when you were speaking here a few minutes ago, talking about people who were connected and remain so. So anyway, I'm sorry I took so long, but I thought that was important to say, making a pitch for the 200th anniversary. I know Gail is very enthusiastic about it. If you are at all interested in history or want to be involved in any of programs that are being developed for the coming year, talk to Gail. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug and Mary Lou. Has anyone ever been asked what Unitarian Universalism is? I often get it when I admit that I'm a minister, and the worst is on a plane, which fortunately I haven't had to do that in a long time. Oh boy. Sometimes I think if I were just really on top of my game, I'd just say I'm a Presbyterian and then just move on. But then when I explain, then on more than one occasion, I hear, seriously? I go to church to get the answers, to get the truth. You mean you expect people to find it for themselves? Every person finding their own truth? That can't possibly work. And I simply say, oh, you'd be surprised. We are always seeking. We are searching for truth and meaning. It's in our principles and purposes. And I've heard some Unitarian Universalists describe themselves or Unitarian Universalism as spiritual seekers. What are we seeking? I would posit we're seeking truth. That's what our fourth principle says. So if someone asks you, hey, what do you all do over there on Clapboard Ridge in that you place? You tell them we're seeking truth. And if they ask about what, you tell them about humanity, about history, about religion, about spirituality, nature, the earth, everything. And if they ask, well, what truth does your denomination teach? You tell them it doesn't teach a truth. It teaches us to seek truth. And if they ask why, because believe me, they eventually will ask why. You say, we seek truth so that we may know how best to live. We are always seeking because revelation is not sealed. So my truth today that I shared is just for this point in time. It's not sealed. I'm ever evolving. We are ever evolving as human beings, as spiritual beings. And that evolution is impacted by our membership in and engagement with this beloved community. So I invite Carl Tischler and Suzanne Perry as 20-year members to come and briefly share.
Well, 20 years, quite a milestone. But then hearing Doug and Mary Lou and all these stories, it's not really that long. Yes, okay, sorry. So we came, Suzanne and I came to this congregation in 2001 when we were in West Reading at the barn. We were church shopping, looking for a place for our Jewish Christian family to have a common spiritual home for us and our two boys, Andrew and Alexi. They're both well over 20 years old now, and both of them have a strong connection to this congregation. Alexi participated in the religious education program here for several years, including several cons, which are gatherings of UU youth across multiple congregations. He made many connections with people here and the wider UU community. And he still has friends, not just here, but across the district. Andrew, my older son, as many of you know, is autistic, and he has been able to attend here and participate in the ritual of the service and enjoy the music. And Suzanne and I are very grateful to the congregation for welcoming him here. Suzanne wanted to say a few words as well on that.
Yes, I'm not much a speaker, I'll be brief, but when we came to UU 20 years ago, we had a big challenge, in my mind anyways. We were looking for a special place and a special community that would appreciate our severely autistic son Andrew for who he is, and that would make our family feel like we had a home here. And here in the last 20 years, we have found our special place. It is here, UUCD. And I'm grateful for all of you and for being here at UUCD.
Thank you, Suzanne. So that's the welcoming nature of this community. That's what's kept us here for past 20 years and hopefully many more. A little reminiscence from me, when we first started coming to the barn, we were invited to an orientation for new visitors at Bob Bollinger's house. And it just came to me when I was thinking what to say here. And I was a little apprehensive, perhaps going there. I was having been brought up Jewish and haven't not been since my bar mitzvah, pretty much unchurched or unreligious. But we found that we were able to actually talk, hear different perspectives. We were listened to, and we felt welcome. I felt comfortable, very comfortable that time. And the welcoming community has kept us coming back, but also particularly the welcoming of diversity, which is in our mission statement. Diversity of backgrounds, perspectives, the inherent worth and dignity of all, the importance of living out those principles. I found my own strength, which I didn't know I had, to support and work and speak out on social justice issues, on marriage equality and immigrants' rights. In 2004, I flew out to Portland to lobby for marriage equality, and I was hosted by two older UU women there. They're my West Coast aunties. And when I was president of the board, we moved to welcome immigrants and to be a sanctuary congregation. And so I firsthand got a lot of hate mail, frankly, from the community. But I felt very empowered, and I actually had a brief interview with the News Times where there was no doubt in how I could say this is the right thing to do. This is what we stand for. I'm grateful for that time. I'm grateful not just for the social justice work, but also being able to be on the board of trustees and president of the board, and the encouragement and support I got from everyone in the congregation when I did those roles. And I'm still active now in the finance team. Looking at the program, the Order of Service, and seeing the names of the members who died also brings back many memories. Good memories, but sad too that they're not here with us. It's been very difficult for me and Suzanne, I'm sure for many of you, to navigate this pandemic without the same level of physical connection that we had before. But social connection, the warmth, the community, the caring is here, even with Zoom and masks.
And the love.
And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl and Suzanne. Thank you to all members, past and present. Take with you those names of those who have gone before. They have paved the way. Their names are there, and I ask you to remember them, to reflect upon them. We are not presented as Unitarian Universalists with a cloak of one size fits all truth. We're not given the answers. Our struggle with truth and meaning is done in the context of community, because this is where our search is affirmed and promoted. That means we trust each other. We have to trust each other, listening and learning and appreciating. This, I believe, we gather together searching for truth and meaning in our lives while also supporting the search in the lives of others, welcoming a diversity of people, ideas, and beliefs. This, I believe, living the search for truth and meaning will be arduous at times, even burdensome and demanding, with the bumps and the potholes and the hairpin turns, but we strive to create beloved community. We celebrate that, what is good in life. We offer comfort, we offer care in times of need. This, I believe, that with others, we work to create a just society and a sustainable earth, and we stand as a beacon for independent thought and encourage lifelong spiritual and intellectual exploration. These are all from the mission statement of this congregation. This congregation, adopted in 2008. I believe in the mission of this congregation. We celebrate our membership, we live out our mission, we search for truth. But always remember, truth is willing to wait for a long time without attention or visible encouragement, but truth is not willing to live without love. And neither are we. So may it be so.
As we approach the end of our service, please join me in the chalice extinguishing words that are printed on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please join now, sing hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die. We dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need those friends and to call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give. We have our thoughts to receive. And we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear the free nation freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth. And we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die. And when our lives are done, the memories as we share with friends, they will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow. We have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer.
Last verse.
We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the ways of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And when we come together here,
Make sense of what we find. And we believe
in life
and in the
strength of love. And we have found the joy being together. And in our search for peace, may we finally see even to question
From Theodore Parker. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Shalom. Salam. Amen. Blessed be to each and all. Namaste.